Hi, I'm Steven Keller.
I'm Dustin Hamrick.
And this is a Two Dudes MTG Deck Tech.
Ow! Alright guys, so we're here at the Deck Tech, and this is the main piece of the deck, and this is Odric Lunarch Marshal. So what Odric does is, at the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn. Creatures you control also gain first strike, the same as with haste and indestructible and double strike and death touch and hexproof and lifelink and mint.
So all the mechanics all the creature mechanics that matter.
It gets every fucking thing.
Except for flash.
Yeah, it doesn't get flash. Skulk, reach, trample, and vigilance, and first strike, and double strike, and death touch, and flying. Great.
Everything. Just
Odric.
Everything is now Chromanticore.
Yeah, we like Odric.
That's what that card is. Everything is Chromanticore.
All right, so this is the backbone of the deck. Even though this deck can really win without Odric, and especially after you side out. So the sideboard is really basically built on the black-white control deck that is kind of prominent and standard at the time.
But we'll talk more about the sideboard in a minute. Let's move into the 2-drop slot and go ahead and start talking about the creatures here.
Yep. So we're gonna go in the 2-drop slot. We go 3 Hidden Dragon Slayers. So there's 3 whole hidden Dragon Slayers. Then we go 2 Selfless Spirit. So what you do with a Hidden Dragon Slayer and Selfless Spirit here is these 2 creatures are actually the only 2 creatures that are not legendary in the deck. With Hidden Dragon Slayer, you get some early life gain, which is going to be very important for you because you're a mid-range deck and you really want to be able to sustain here.
In this deck, I see it a lot of times being cast as 2. I was saying, I've played a lot of Warriors. I cast this guy a lot. Many a time cast him as a 2-drop just because he's a good blocker. He's a great blocker.
He's a great blocker. He's going to gain you 2 life unless he gets killed. But that's kind of the whole idea here is I'm going to play something, you have to kill it, or it's going to do something really good for me.
And you don't cast him face down, at least not in this deck, until you have 6 mana or you have 5 mana and a way to save. Like, if you have Selfless Spirit out,
for example, yeah. All right, so Selfless Spirit in the deck is going to help you sustain and be able to save your creatures. Yeah,
that's what it does.
Save your creatures, and it also gives you a little bit of flying if you have Odric out, and you can give your board state flying if you don't have another creature that gives your board state flying. So it's going to be able to give your creatures flying and be able to protect your board, and hopefully with these 2 in the early game you'll be able to get into a more longer and mid-range build. So.
And now for our 3rd 2-drop, Ollie Eternal Pilgrim.
Ollie. So now we play 3 Ollie in the deck. Now this is a little bit different because there's only 3 creatures that we play 3 of, and this is one of them. Ollie is going to give you protection because of the death touch. She's also going to provide you with some late game life gain, because you'll be able to sacrifice a creature and gain life equal to its toughness. And not only that, but you will also be able to flip Avacyn with this card. So we are playing 3 of Avacyn along with this to be able to flip and do a wrath effect on their board.
And this is kind of interesting too. And some of the testing that we've done with Ollie in the deck, I've seen plenty of Vigilant Shambling Vents. Shambling Vents is obviously in the mana base for this deck. I've seen plenty of Vigilant Shambling Vents that attacked me, lived through the swing, and then tapped themselves to sacrifice themselves to Ollie to gain like 4
it would gain 4 life that turn. Yeah, right.
No, it's 3 if there's
3
no
or 4,
buff
right.
anything out. Mm-hmm. But we have some buffs in this deck, and let's go ahead and move to one of them.
Right.
This is our 3-drop, and this is the only 3-drop creature that we have in the deck, and that is Drana, Liberator of Malakir.
So Drana here is a really an important utility card, because what Drana allows you to do is if you don't have an Odric out, Drana can just straight up win you the game. with her counters and first strike that she gives to all your attacking creatures. Especially if you have a Self Spirit out and you guys are flying over with first strike, and you got, you'll be able to protect her, and you can get +1/+1 counters, and it's just a really good card. Not to mention, when you do have Odric out, she's just a 2 ability card that's going to be able to affect your board in the best way possible.
With Odric out, it gives your herself gives you your entire board evasion and the ability to live through what could possibly be a really bad swing otherwise.
Right. Because she can deal damage first with her first strike ability, and then also be able to buff your creatures. That is, if you don't have Odric out.
Yeah, if you don't have Odric out.
Yeah.
If you do have Odric out, I don't think you really care though, because you're just turning your other creatures into huge beat sticks with her. Everything gets a counter every time she hits something. You don't care that everything has first strike because the swing is going to be even bigger next turn.
Again, this is a mid-range build that does, here's something, can you deal with that? Here's another thing, can you deal with that? And if you can, that's fine. We always got something bigger and better to play the next turn. It curves up higher and higher and higher.
Speaking of bigger and better curve here,
go.
let's go ahead and go to the staples of what would be black-white control as it is in Standard right now. Kalitas and Avacyn.
Yep. So in this deck, Kalitas and Avacyn are doing a little bit of different things here. Avacyn, like we said before, is going to be able to be flipped by Ollie herself, who can just sacrifice a Shambling Vent or sacrifice whatever you might have on the board just to be able to flip Avacyn, who can then give you a Wrath effect, and then, if you have an Always Watching out, can do some really bad damage once Avacyn's flipped and can have Vigilance. So she's also going to be able to protect your board. Like what I said before, you're playing some mid-range creatures here, so you want them to stick, and you want them to be able to be impactful throughout the game. And she's going to help you provide some protection for that. And Kalitas is going to get you to the long game, and also potentially be a win condition for you, and especially if you if you're in the side and you're from the sideboard and you're playing a lot of black-white control as it is in Standard today.
Well, in any build, Kalitas wins games.
Kalitas wins games. And the removal package that we have in here for you, and especially with Archangel Avacyn herself, once she flips, if you're removing anything from Avacyn, then you can eat the zombie with Kalitas, and then that's pretty much bad for your opponent after that.
But those are, of course, the stables. And now for aside from Odric, another little spicy addition to it, Thalia's Lancers. Now I kind of like this as a one-up.
It is just a one-of in the deck, and the reason why you play Thalia's Lancers as a one-of here is because the whole deck is legendary besides your 2-drop slot of Selfless Spirit and Hidden Dragon Slayer. Other than that, all your creature base is legendary. So Thalia's Lancers kind of answers the question for you if you need if you need to gain life, or if you need to go get an Odric, or
really
if you need to...
It's the way to put the other piece of the combo together. Because it's not really
it's
a combo
piece.
deck, but your creatures are... Because of Odric just makes all your creatures synergize together.
Right.
So with being able to go get a really, really powerful piece of the puzzle and being able to give your entire board first strike along with it, because if you don't have Odric, you go get Odric.
Right.
If you have Odric, you probably go get
Avacyn. That's what you get.
And then after that, you get Kalitas, and then Ollie, and then...
But there are some instances where you'll have Avacyn out on the board, and you won't have Odric out, and you can wrath their board, and you can wrath their board if you flip Avacyn, so you go get Ollie, and then immediately flip Ollie next turn, wiping their board, and just winning the game with Avacyn from there.
Okay, so to recap the creature base, we have 3 copies of Hidden Dragon Slayer, 2 copies of Selfless Spirit, 3 copies of Ollie Eternal Pilgrim, 2 copies of John Liberator of
Liberator of Malakir.
Yeah, 3 copies of Odric Lunarch Marshal, 2 copies of Kalitas Traitor of Get, and 3 copies of Archangel Avacyn.
So that's your creature base there.
and
now
one copy of Thalia's Lancers.
Yeah, oh yeah, and then the Lancers, you just,
that
one.
The thing we were looking at.
Okay,
so, on to our non-creature spells. Let's start with our Planeswalker.
All right, so the one of Planeswalker here is...
You guessed it!
Liliana. As you could have guessed, yeah, Liliana is definitely what you want to play in this type of deck.
But she doesn't work the way you think she would.
Right, okay, so the way you want to play Liliana in this deck is not at the 3-drop slot.
She works like Dredge.
Yeah, she works like Dredge. So what you want to do is you want to play Lily for her -2 ability. If she dies, that's fine. You get what you achieved out of her, because if you're only playing 2 or 3 creatures at a time on the board. Granted, they're going to be heavy beat sticks the entire time they're out, but they're also going to have big bullseyes on their back. Your opponent's going to want to kill them. Liliana's just going to go help you get them back out of the graveyard. And then post board, you'll be able to use Liliana as actual win condition, because you're going to be boarding into more of a traditional black-white control deck.
So that's the only Planeswalker in the deck, and I think that's
it. And there's
the only
3.
one needed. There's a bit of an argument for Sorin Grim Nemesis in the sideboard.
And Sorin is in the sideboard. So also another thing you might want to think about as far as the side goes, and like I just mentioned, it is a more traditional black-white control sideboard.
You just board into more removal, really.
You just board into more removal, and they kind of get your whole Odric thing. You just kind of pull that back and just play black-white control and just win games like that.
So anyway, there's 3 copies of Liliana, and that's the only Planeswalker. Let's move to the only enchantment in the deck, and that is Always Watching.
So there's 2 of Always Watching in the deck, and
speaking of making creatures giant beat sticks.
Right, so this is what you do. This is your Vigilance package if you don't have Archangel Avacyn out, and this can also win you the game without having Odric out.
It's just really good. Like, you have you have so many creatures with so many different abilities on it that just making them bigger. If your whole board has flying and they're bigger, crap, you know?
And they have Vigilance.
First Strike and Lifelink.
So if you have a Drana out with Ollie and you have Odric out, so those 3 creatures, now you have a Death Touch, Flying, First Strike, Vigilance creature brace, and they all get +1/+1.
Living the dream in this deck is 1 Avacyn, 1 Kalitas, 1 Odric, 1 Drana, 1 Ollie, and maybe a Selfless Spirit to keep it all alive.
I mean, you're stretching to get that many creatures out in this deck. But that's why we play protection spells, and this is also acting as a protection spell to buff your creatures out too.
Living the dream. But anyway,
yeah. it is living the dream.
So that's the only enchantment.
There's just 2 of so.
Okay, so bit of a hand fixing package, and there's a couple cards here. Here's the first of it. There'll be 2 copies of Read the Bones.
Yeah, and this is just to go find what you need. I mean, really, this is a mid-range deck, so you're kind of being reactive most of the game. You're putting a creature out and kind of just leaving it there and waiting for the right moment to strike. Other than that, you're just kind of controlling the board.
Okay, so let's move to the control package, or removal package, I should say.
Removal package, here we go.
So we have 3 copies of Grasp of Darkness, 2 copies of Anguish Unmaking, and 1 copy of Ruinous Path.
All right, so Anguish Unmaking is really going to be your all remove spell here.
Everything.
It hits everything. You're gonna lose 3 life, but you've got so much life gain in the deck. Losing 3 life is not going to hurt you at all. There's 2 of this card in here. And then Ruinous Path is going to be your way to deal with straight up creature removal, unconditional, and then also to get rid of planeswalkers.
Right. And it's mostly for when things get bigger than a 4 toughness butt.
Right.
But yeah, the Ruinous Path will
besides the 4 toughness butt, then we got 2 Grasp of Darkness also.
Which hits everything except like Sylvan Advocate once it's turned on, so.
Yeah, so that's your removal package here. And then also we will go into
a little more an early removal package with 2 copies of Transgress the Mind.
And what this is going to do is this is going to help you with the Eldrazi or with the bigger creatures, especially the Emerge decks and all that are going around right about now, to help you remove their big threats that they're going to be getting.
Nothing feels better than snatching an Emrakul out of somebody's hand.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the only one in the deck.
It's either the one of Emrakul or the Elder Deep Fiend or whatever they might have. But
or just anything that's actually a threat to your deck. Anything that can actually handle this deck. Which is like Languish.
Maybe.
if
Sometimes Languish is okay.
If you see a Languish, that's what you really snatch out of their hand,
Yeah. If you see a Languish, you definitely don't want to keep Languish out.
But other than that, it's just kind of like, oh, I'm going to pick this creature that I know is going to help you later.
Yeah.
Or oh, you have this spell. Well, let me get rid of that. That's all that really is.
Yep.
So we have 2 copies of Transgress the Mind, and then Dustin.
All right. This was a secret included.
Secret deck tech.
Secret deck tech include here.
One copy of Ever After.
So Ever After.
This is the most explosive card of the deck, actually.
It very much is, Steve. And the reason why it is because you don't really play a whole lot of creatures, and this is why this is just a one of, but it's a 6-drop. And I mean, all you gotta do is get 2 these, or this package,
any combination,
or like this package.
You put any combination of those back onto the battlefield.
This package, or like this package. I mean, any of that stupid good.
It's all
all this is very good.
Taking 2 pieces of this puzzle that we've pieced out, and
then this is
gonna
be the fixer to it all. And I mean, it totally makes sense, especially as just a one of. And if you are at the point of the game where you read the bones, and you'll be able to kind of sit through your deck, and you're looking for that one copy of Ever After, and then you just top deck it.
Yep.
And it's gonna feel
good. It's a great card for when the game does go really, really, really long.
You have an out. There's not gonna be a stall where you're just gonna be like, oh my god, there's no way for me to win the game. Ever After gives you that opportunity to still stay in the game.
Right. Exactly. Now there's a couple things that this deck could possibly also have. That's the entire list of spells. We'll move into the land base here in just a second. But there's a couple arguments. I think there's a possibility of just honorable mention of Dark Petition.
Absolutely. Dark Petition could be a card in the deck.
There's a decent removal package towards the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you've probably cast at least a Grasp of Darkness and a Read the Bones.
Yeah.
So Spell Mastery will trigger. So when you cast it, you get the 3 black. If you have one more white open, you can go get your Odric and cast it immediately. Or Drana for free.
Right. I think the biggest issue with playing a Dark Petition is what you really have to think about is that's a better card for the sideboard. I mean, you're going to be bringing a lot more spells during the side, and what we want to do during the sideboard is we're going to take out the Thalia's Lancers. You could potentially just take out the Odrics, the Thalia's Lancers, and
go Avacyn, Kalitas, Drana,
and remove
Ollie, Black-White Control.
Yeah, Black-White Control. Traditional Black-White Control deck. This is going to win you.
You leave in the Dragon Slayers.
You leave in the Dragon Slayers.
You can probably even cut Selfless Spirit if really needed.
I think
then Always Watching can come out when needed.
It's a pretty good transitional sideboard.
It is.
And I think even you could transition back into some cards depending on what you're playing against. And also, I do want to mention with the Thalia's Lancers here. So there is a one of Gyri Reach Sanitarium in the side or in the land base. So you can go get Gyri Reach with Lancers because it's a legendary land, and you can be able to cast your Ever After or your Sorin post board.
Right.
So that's actually a pretty good synergy there.
All right. So the land base for a 2-color deck is very simple. You have 9 swamps. You have 6 plains. Here it is. Forsaken Sanctuary. And then 4 copies of Caves of Koilos, and of course, absolutely 4 copies of Shambling Vents.
So what makes Shambling Vents so cool is if you have Odric out, you don't have to swing with Shambling Vents. You just activate Shambling Vents, and all of a sudden, all your creatures have lifelink.
Oh, and of course the
we already talked. Yeah, we talked about 1 copy of Gyri Reach. But yeah, so you just when you have Odric out, you activate your Shambling Vent. And you can still tap your Shambling Vent for mana during second main phase or during combat or whatever you might want to do. But Yeah, at the beginning of combat, all your creatures will get lifelink, but just because you turned it on.
And it's super good. The deck sustains very, very well. Like, very well, just with the amount of lifelink that's in it altogether. We've been testing it again a bit. Dustin's the one that plays it the most. I play against it with Bant Coco and with the standard burn deck that I've been using, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And
we'll have a deck tech on the standard burn deck soon.
But all right, so against Coco, Coco's a god-awful deck in the first place.
Coco is a pain in the ass to deal with no matter what deck you're playing.
But it is possible for this deck to beat Coco.
It does beat Coco, and it's about a 60-40.
It's the game. That's the game though that tends to board stall really, really hard.
It does.
Until you like Liliana and they don't have.
I think as long as you don't get, as long as you can sustain and they're not drawn into Reflector Mage, you can win.
Or Selfless, or not Selfless Spirit.
Selfless Spirit is fine.
Yeah, Selfless Spirit.
Reflector Mage is what you really have to worry about.
And what's the other damn blue and white? The freaking counter spell.
Even Spellqueller.
Spellqueller.
Even Spellqueller is not too much of an issue. I mean, once you get, because you have so many good 5-drops, dropping in Archangel Avacyn, and especially post board when you're really bringing in control, it's totally fine. I mean.
Okay, well, that's the deck tech. I'm going to post a list of everything up on the Facebook page probably later on today, so you guys can actually have a list of it and put it together and try it out for yourself. See if you like it. Let us know what you think. Give us any comments, remarks. Like our Facebook page. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make us famously drunk. Or something.
Make us famously drunk.
So,
there you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's time.
That's right,
it's time for the Two Dudes MTG sign off.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna get so much liquor on this mat.
It's got it on there already.
Yeah, we know.
All right, so this is Two Dudes MTG. I'm Dustin Hambrick.
And I'm Steven Keller.
Yeah.